Welcome to Joy of Business with host Simone Milicis, a dynamic business leader with a difference. Simone has founded and operated many businesses from a young age and has always done business differently. Today, Simone is the worldwide coordinator of Access Consciousness and travels the world presenting Joy of Business programs using access tools and empowering people to know that they can create business in a different way and make money doing it. Simone Milicis, weekly on OMTimes Radio.
Hello, everyone. This is not, in fact, your Simone Milicis Weekly. This is your now regular hijack of OMTimes Radio by Rebecca Hulse, the creative producer of Joy of Business. And I have some really great friends with me here today because we were inspired on this conversation we recently had in Costa Rica about money. And so today I have with me two better that I love to talk about money with, which is Georgia Watson and Nathan Glassell. So hi, guys.
Hello.
Hello.
Awesome. So this conversation came about with a little impromptu party we had in Costa Rica where a friend of ours, Emily, who's my normal hijack buddy in crime, who is not here today. We do miss you, Emily. And she was asking us questions about how we grew up with money. And some of our stories were very similar to the point that it was pretty airy and very funny. And some of them were so completely different that we realized that this was a conversation that we really wanted to be having. So Georgia has created her own very successful business selling things online, and it's a very different service, which we have already talked about before. And Nate has a very different story and has started creating a lot of things with property, and he's another one of my favorite people. So we have a lot to talk about, and we have to start somewhere. So I would like to start with a question of how did you find out that you had money?
I guess I can go first. There wasn't, and this is Georgia. I don't have like a specific memory of like a moment where I found out, but I do remember conversations really early on in our family. Mostly, they consisted of us talking about that we had it and that it's not necessarily a good idea to tell other people that we had it. It was almost like this secret that if people found out that we had money that they would want it from us, and that's not something I should be talking about as a kid. So those were some of my earliest memories of those kinds of conversations.
Right. And what kind of effect did that kind of create on your ability to have money later down?
Well, I do remember it creating sort of an energy of I have something and it's a secret and I've got it. And I remember it actually being kind of like a fun thing for me. Like it always seemed like, well, naturally, of course we have this. And I think just my own personal take on it, which probably has more to do with my personality than necessarily like how that conversation would be perceived in any other person's world, is it was just like, ooh, I've got a fun secret I'm not supposed to talk about, and it's really cool.
I love that about you, Georgia. That is a really different take. I know I actually had that very similar conversation, but my take on it was very much, oh, this is a bad thing to have because only the bad things are the things that you don't talk about.
Wow.
And that definitely was a different conversation of like, oh, I have this bad thing that I have and no one else has it, so they don't have to worry about not talking about it. Like it's one of those very like hush-hush things, like when someone was sick and people weren't supposed to know about it, or it was one of those kinds of associations for me. Which very luckily I changed. But Nate, I think you had a bit of a different first kind of conversations and stories about money.
Yes, definitely. When I was growing up, we didn't really talk about money in that kind of way of whether we had it or not. Starting off, if we're talking about how I found out that we had money, I didn't really find out till I was about 18, and my mom sat me down and said, hey, this is what we have. She brought in the financial advisor. We looked at the numbers straight up, and she looked at me and said, so how would you like to contribute to growing this? And that's kind of when I first looked and saw the amount, and then I was given a task on what I had to create to add to it and help it grow.
Were you shocked? Like, what was that like for you, being like given all that information all at once?
I mean, it was kind of definitely a shock. But then it was also kind of like, I was really excited. So, okay, so there's a certain amount that I wasn't expecting there. And knowing my mom, just seeing that that's what she was able to create. I mean, I didn't really think too much about the numbers. I was like, okay, well, that's that. And I'm already thinking, okay, how can we go make it 10 times, make it 20 times? So I really just looked as a starting point and went from there.
Wow. How old were you?
I was 18.
Wow. I find that really fascinating that was your first approach to looking at that and already considering and wondering and like, yeah, just pondering like about growing that, because that definitely didn't come to my mind until later, where I'm like, I have money. I have no idea how to invest this or what to do with it. Like, I love that I have it, but it almost felt intimidating, like, for what to do with it once I did have it.
Well, yeah. Well, Georgia, like for me, I guess a little bit of ignorance helped, because I didn't really understand what the numbers meant. Because when I was growing up, numbers weren't what we looked at. If I went shopping with mom and I really liked a shirt, we didn't look at the numbers. It was, okay, is this comfortable? What's your life going to be like if you get this? Like, she asked me questions from that, and based on how I reacted with what getting this would actually create in my future, is how we looked at what we would buy, what we would spend the money on. So it wasn't, this is too much, this amount isn't worth the product. It was just, what will happen moving forward if we do this.
Wow. That is such a gift.
We're just kind of geeking out a little over here over this.
Yes.
But this is one of the things that I would like to bring up too to everyone that is listening to this, is that it is one of those conversations that it's actually time to have. Like, whether you're listening to this and you're a kid, or you're a mom and you're thinking about how do I bring up the subject with my kids, like, if you notice the energy in these conversations, like, some of them has been really charged, and some have created a positive effect or a not so positive effect, or just seeing what they're creating. If you start to look at the energy behind what we're saying in these conversations, you may get some really different ideas of how you can create a different financial future with yourself or whoever you have around you. Because I think it's time this whole money conversation came out of the dark and into the light. One of those things that is had but not to be talked about, but what if it was? I mean, it's pretty fun to talk about it, as we're finding out right now.
Yeah. I was remembering another early conversation, actually, where these are kinds of things that just never get talked about. I'm almost getting like giddy, just like, what if I say this? But when I was younger, I remember talking about like the whole concept of family jewels, which of course like also refers to like, you know, like testicles or whatever. And I remember like us like all giggling about family jewels, but we actually had family jewels. And like looking at like the actual stones and like giggling that, yes, my dad has, those things, but like in every way.
Oh my gosh.
All of the jewels, all the different types.
Yeah. And I still have some of those stones that he invested in early on, and maybe someday I'll make them into rings and things. But that's one of the things my dad always did, is he always liked having coins and just different precious metals and stones. And one of my very early baby videos, actually, which I got to watch about a year ago for the first time, is in my stocking. And he did this throughout my whole life when he was alive. But even when I was a baby, this was my very first Christmas, he gave me a sterling silver coin. And I was physically like grabbing it and putting it like near my mouth and just holding it and enjoying it. And I was like laughing and giggling. And then after a little while, my mom took it away and I started crying. And I just like, it's so interesting to look back at those moments and be like, oh wow, like I had an enjoyment of money even back when I was a kid, because there were other toys that my mom tried to give me after that, and I wasn't playing with them. I actually wanted to play with that coin.
Jordan, awesome. Do you think that like being able to have that ability to play with it kind of just changes it a little for growing up with it? I mean, instead of keeping it just a dark and a secret and having it be a surprise to you, like just being used to it and playing with that younger.
I think so, because it was a conversation basically every Christmas that came up, because my dad would give not just me a silver coin, but usually everybody in their stocking, and that was just kind of part of one of our traditions. But that also opened up a conversation about investing and buying things that have an intrinsic value that will have more value in the future too. And we talked about the difference between the coin's like technical worth as like a U.S. currency being a dollar, but what the actual silver value was worth more than that. And so I was, these things were explained to me early on, and we had some of them came with plastic over them as protection. And so we talked about how those were actually worth more because they'd never been touched and they're preserved, and these kinds of things we just talked about is something interesting as part of Christmas. And once my dad passed away, that changed because we didn't have that anymore, but I did miss those kind of conversations. It was like learning about money and about wealth early on and having them be just as fun as the other toys that I would get as Christmas presents.
Wow, that's awesome.
So cool. Yeah, and what I love that brings up is the education behind money. I mean, so many people see this thing as like this mystery that I don't know, like, how does it happen and what makes it go round, and like how do people make money off things, and how does investment works in stocks and precious commodities. But here's the thing that I've realized is that we've all just actually had the gift of education about this. And this information is actually freely out there. You have Google as your best friend. You can Google the price of silver and gold. You can see those graph charts and see how they're rising or falling and the different patterns. And I think it's also just the willingness to actually be interested in that information and see the use of it to you too.
And I think it helps, too, to have other people kind of geeking out about it, because you're like, oh, wait, that could be interesting.
Yes.
And what were you going to say, Nate?
Oh, just your story just reminded me of another story that I dealt with when I was younger, but not necessarily from my mom, but from my dad, actually, who taught me about. This is like something he taught me about with money. We were young, and I was probably about 10 years old, and we wanted to have a lemonade stand, right? One of my friends from down the street. So we decided to set up shop on our street, just got a table and everything, made a sign, except we realized
oh my gosh, we can't finish the story yet. This is going to be cliffhanger number 1. I know that you're used to this by now when it's me, and I'm sorry, but it's coming up, promise. Lemonade stand, after the break.
What if every moment of every day you had more choice, more tools, more allowance of you? What if joy was your priority? If this is the kind of life you would like to create, you can join Simone Millicis on the Adventure of Living series, a worldwide telecall where every month you can explore different topics using the Access Consciousness tools and processes to change any area of your life you think is not working for you. Business, money, parenting, bodies, relationships, the list goes on. And what if it did not have to? If your life was the adventure of living, what would you create it as? For more information and to sign up, go to accesstheadventureofliving.com.
Host your show on IOM-FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM-FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
Hi, this is Sylvia Henderson, intuitive life coach and energy healer. Are you ready to elevate and rise way above your normal? Be sure to listen to my show, Intuitive Transformations, on OMTimes Radio, Sunday evenings at 9 p.m. Eastern. Get the inspiration you need to transform your life.
The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is. The cutting edge of conscious radio, OMTimes Radio, IOM FM.
Hello, everyone. This is your regular OMTimes Hijack with Rebecca Hulse, not Simone Millicis. I am, in fact, not her. I am the creative producer of Joy of Business, and I have two great friends with me here today, Nathan and Georgia, and we are geeking out about money. And this conversation has been going so well that we don't want to stop talking for the ads. So we left on another trademark cliffhanger. I'm sorry, but I guess you guys know about this more now, that I am very bad at guessing when the breaks are coming up because I don't want to stop. But we did have a really awesome story that we're having by Nate about lemonade stands. So I want to hear the rest of it.
Right. So my childhood friend Connor and I, we got a table, got some chairs, made a sign, and posted up outside the house, ready to start doing our lemonade stand, selling it for 25 cents. And then we realized that as 10-year-old kids, neither of us actually knew how to make lemonade. Nor did we even have lemonade in the house. So we kind of just went around and we started grabbing all of the soda that we could find, every Coke can, Diet Coke, Diet Pepsi, Sprite, anything we could find, and put it in a cooler and brought out and started selling Coke cans for 25 cents a Coke can as people were driving back from work up and down the street. And we knew how many cans we had taken because we just wanted to let them know. And I mean, my dad loved Diet Coke, so if he came home and saw all of his Diet Cokes were missing, we'd have to have an explanation, right? So we did that. We sold about like half of them, came back in, counted our money, and like showed them what we had done. And my dad just looked and goes, that's very interesting, but that's not how much a can of Coke costs individually. So luckily for me, instead of getting mad that all of his Diet Coke was pretty much sold, he decided to show us what the cost difference was from what we were selling it for versus what him and my stepmom had paid to buy all the Coke cans. So afterwards, we realized we had lost money and all of his Diet Cokes, but he didn't. He wasn't too mad. That was just a real life example of us learning. Okay, well, maybe making lemonade at 25 cents is a lot easier and more cost efficient than selling Coke cans at 25 cents. You can't just think they're the same. And so we got a really fun learning experience, and we just had a laugh about it. So that was just a really fun time.
Cool.
I love that. Hands-on-the-job experience about learning the cost of business. Now, we have had some questions come in from some people that wanted to know more about this conversation that we've been having on our little money geek out. And one of them was that, what kind of judgments did you receive or energies or weird things that would come up in your world from other people and the way that you grew up in? And even, I would say now, too, because, I mean, we've all started creating more in our own creations of business and money, too. And, how did you deal with that or use that to your advantage?
This is Georgia. I remember one thing that was really confusing to me when I was a kid. So I lived in Hawaii, and then my parents wanted to move to the Oregon coast. My dad found this property where he wanted to build his dream home. So we did that, and it was an enormous home that he was building, and so we actually moved to Oregon before it was done. And we were living in this little trailer on the property while this enormous mansion with the most beautiful view conceivably, possibly in the whole world was being built. And there was a conversation at this little schoolhouse that I went to where someone was talking about how one of the girls in class lived in a trailer. And I was like, well, I live in a trailer too. And I got a huge barrage of judgment, which I didn't even get, like, what was, like, quote unquote wrong with that. But apparently there was this huge, huge, huge difference between this girl living in a trailer and me living in a trailer. And apparently it was not okay for me to say that I lived in a trailer too, like there was something that she and I had in common. So it actually was this energy of, you're not supposed to say that, you're totally wrong, and you just did something that was totally offensive to her. So some of that conversation was energetic and some was in words. And I'm not sure really like how I dealt with it then. I remember being more confused than anything else, and of course didn't want to like make this other girl feel bad about anything, which was all that was being projected. And I'm not sure that was even necessarily true for this girl who lived in a trailer, because like she came over and we hung out and we were good friends and stuff. But I do remember that was like the first time I remember this like huge judgment about just about me having money, and that actually isn't okay somehow.
And like for me, I guess, I don't know, I had like a different take on that. I mean, most people, you kind of see money in forms of materialistic items, whether houses or clothes and stuff like that. And we didn't really have like the biggest house or like always the fanciest clothes or the newest video games or any of that stuff. And primarily because like just wasn't interested in those things. So one thing that I do remember people finding out like later on in high school when like who my grandpa was or stuff like that. And at the beginning that was kind of difficult to deal with. But I just kept focusing on trying to find people who could have a good time, could be fun with. I remember going to school with a guy named Connor Biggio, and his dad was a famous baseball player. And so people always crowded around him, and it was pretty interesting to see how they reacted to him just by his last name. And I remember thinking to myself, well, I don't want to let people know where I come from or who was in my family, because how can I trust the people I'm meeting? How can I trust their friendship? Is it genuine? Are they really trying to get something out of me? So for a while, I kind of resisted where I came from. I wouldn't talk about it, and pretty much everyone I came into contact was on trial to see if they would actually really like me for me or just want to be around me because they thought that was like a status thing.
And what do you do with that now?
With that now, well, luckily for me, I got to meet a really cool guy named Gary Douglas, and he taught me a few tools to deal with judgment and how to take it as if you're getting judged by someone, you're making money. So I literally just took that point of view with it. If you want to judge me, you can. If you don't judge me, you don't have to. I'm going to keep going and hang out with people who I want to hang out with, even if they are judging me, and not really try to worry about it or let that fear of being judged stop me. And so it's been working out great.
That's awesome. And that so funnily leads into another question that we've had sent in on that many people wait to create things, or they don't create them based on I don't have the money or different points of view, or I don't want to be judged. And I wondered if you guys had ever come across that or had facilitated it or changed it or seen it in someone else or seen someone overcome it.
Jordan, do you have anything? I mean, I have something that I just know with when I joined my fraternity, I was definitely it was like a clean slate. I got my bid. No one really knew where I came from. They literally had to look at me as just, who is this guy? What does he like to do? Like, do we get along with him? So no one really knew where I came from, and I was able to create a lot more friendships that way. And then as these guys kind of got cool with me, they started to notice like how I spent money, how like what kind of lifestyle I lived, and now I can look at where I come from and what I have as a like a challenge to challenge them to get to somewhere where they didn't think was possible. Like if I'm doing all this, like what can they create or what can they add in their lives to join me, you know?
That's cool. Georgia, did you have any stories about that, or?
I don't know if I have any stories, but I do love what you were saying, Nate, about really actually inviting other people to join, because that's not something that I've heard very, very often with people who do have money. It tends to sometimes be this exclusive thing, like I have it and other people don't, or I have it and I'm more deserving for that. Like I've seen that a whole lot with people who do have money, and I just see it as such a gift that you have that like invitation, just how you be, that lets people know that money doesn't necessarily have to be something that's exclusive, that isn't open to everybody. Of course, like a lot of the ideas of what we're taught about of how to make money and things like don't necessarily work. But with these tools with access consciousness and stuff, and I know, Nathan, that you like you're so generous with the way that you like educate people too. Like you wait for people to ask a question, but when someone does ask a question of you, like you're just an open book and you'll like share anything that's worked for you. And I just love having conversations with you for that reason, because I always learn more, whether it's about like running or about, sounds like the break's coming.
So after the break, we will have more about geeky money conversations. Georgia,
yay!
Time for back.
Have you ever wondered how to change your love paradigm? The secret key is finding a love partnership, not just a regular connection. How do you find these? Through conscious relationships. Ascending Hearts Dating is a dating site for people like you that believes in second chances and a different type of spiritual connection. Try Ascending Hearts for free today at ascendinghearts.com and change your love paradigm. Ascending Hearts, the premier dating community for the spiritually awake.
Radio Namaste leads you down the yellow brick road into portals of consciousness with the blue-collar goddess as your host. Interviews with humans who could be famous or just popular, and answers to everything are on the agenda. Tune into OMTimes Radio and drop in on Thursdays at 3 Eastern. It's a different brand of enlightenment.
Host your show on IOM-FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM-FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
The Access Consciousness bars are the very core and foundation of Access Consciousness. Access bars is a simple, relaxing body process that creates more happiness, more joy, and more peace in your world. The bars can be the starting point of a great adventure, and it can be something you add to your life that will assist you in creating a greater ease with everything. When touched gently, the 32 bars of energy that run through and along the head release all the thoughts, decisions, and beliefs that are limiting you and holding you back from being all of you. Learn more and find an Access Bars practitioner near you at accessconsciousness.com/bars.
Connecting you with the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio. IOM-FM.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to this latest hijack on OMTimes Joy of Business Radio. This is not Simone Milicis today. This is Rebecca Hulse on your now pretty regular hijacking of this radio segment. And I also have with me two other money geeks. I have Georgia Watson and Nathan Glassell, and we have been having a fabulous conversation about money if you've just joined in with us live. And if you haven't, welcome back. We're glad you're still sticking with us. And I want to continue this conversation with a couple more questions that we've had recently about how to have money without spending it. Now, one of the first conversations that Nathan was talking about was not worrying about the price and asking questions about it. And I wonder how that kind of fits into this conversation too. How does that work when you're not even looking at the price with having money without spending it?
Having money without spending it. I mean, one thing that I do and I've been doing for a few years to get more acquainted with having money has been to having myself a 10% self-respect fund, where no matter what I get coming in from any check whatsoever, 10% I automatically just put in that little bank account and I don't touch at all. And so that kind of just having that around, and sometimes I keep it in a little Ziploc bag that I have like in my room. I can tell you where. But every once in a while I pull it out and just like check out. I have the cash in my hand. I look at it. I kind of get that feel of what it's like to have that amount in my hands, and then I go, okay. Well, I get a little excited about it, and I kind of start asking myself questions. What can I do to have more of that? So kind of using that to kind of play with and get inspired to create more, for sure.
I love having the 10% accounts too. And one of the ways that I looked at it early on is it's really common in at least a lot of religions to tithe 10% of what you make to a church. And I started looking at like, whoa, what if I actually like tithe to me? Because there's something about like an honoring that goes along with giving 10%. Because if you're religious or spiritual, it's like an honoring, like thanking that higher power for their contribution and doing what you can to honor that with the money that shows up in your life. And if I started looking at it and I was like, wow, what a strange but awesome idea to actually have that honoring for oneself. And so I started doing that 10% account as soon as I heard about the tool. And I've heard about some people who kind of go back and forth on using it and not using it and what it creates for their money flows. And I've heard over and over again that when people spend that 10% account, that money kind of tends to not show up as much in that time after, but then once they pay it back, money starts flowing back in more. And I don't know, I found that to be a really fascinating contribution to my life, is having that 10% account. And Rebecca, remind me again what the question was. It was about having money and not spending it?
Yes, exactly. How to have money without spending it all.
Okay, cool. So yeah, so the 10% is just a really awesome way of doing that, because you can invest that 10% into things that won't really fluctuate, like stocks and things. It's like, we were talking about like gold and silver and gems and things like that. But another thing that I do is I actually look when I'm interested in maybe spending money on something. Sometimes I kind of look at like, well, I could have a fancy car where I maybe am paying monthly payments as a lease, or paying that whole amount up front, or getting a loan. And then sometimes I look and see, like, do I actually desire that thing more, or would I prefer to have that, let's say, just like $500 that like monthly? Would I appreciate having the $500 more, or would I like having that thing? So that's one of the things that I do. And then, but really like also just using the tools of access, asking questions like, if I buy this, will it make me money? And that's not linear or logical in any way, but there is an energetic awareness that comes from that. So oftentimes when I'm buying things, that's one of my main questions that I ask, like even going on trips. Like usually you don't think of like a vacation being able to make you money, but I've asked before, like, so if I go on this trip, will it make me money? And I get a yes. So I'm like, well, I can't not do it. If it's going to make me money, I got to go. That's one of the ways. Yeah, those are some of the ways that I look at spending money or not spending money.
I love that too. And I mean, here's the other thing too that I've just realized is that we're all playing with this. We're playing with these tools and exploring them. Like, we don't have this whole, I mean, some of the things are more obvious. Like, yes, if you're tithing to yourself and doing a 10% account that's there to honor you when you're putting energy into it and continuously putting money into it, then yes, we know that it is something that creates a great result in your life. And as soon as you stop doing it or you spend it, it starts to suck really easily. Like some of those are pretty definite. But then the other things, like if I buy this, will it make me money? And indulging in having it, and if I had unlimited amounts of money, would I truly desire this? Like these are tools that we're playing with, and rather than going, yes, I know that this question is going to bring me this result. It's not nearly as linear as that, and it's actually one of the things that makes it a lot more fun.
Right, and like one thing, I'm just kind of like looking around my office and my studio apartment right now, and just noticing that the desk that I'm using is an antique from like the 1800s. My bed frame is from the early 1900s. It's just also finding those things that, I mean, this desk probably won't be made by hand like ever again. You know, there's something to be said in having those kind of things around you as well.
And
that's true.
The other thing yeah. Oh, I
like having a lot of cash around. I think we're all like that. We're like, I want to see pretty things and money.
Yeah. But here's the other thing that I just like to point out too is that you can start small. Like if this is a conversation that's really starting to push at your buttons and you're going, yeah, but these guys have created this, but yeah, you can also start out really small. Like you could go and buy yourself a silver coin. The rate isn't too bad for that right now. You could go and start looking in secondhand shops and ask for the objects that are worth more money than what they're being sold for to jump out at you. And they will. Yeah. And the objects that want to come home with you will scream loud and clear. They make it really obvious. I don't know if you've ever walked past and you're shopping, or you're walk passing a random area and your face suddenly turns into this window shop and it's screaming like, I have to go in there, and you walk out with this great buy and you're going, why did I buy that? Because that object really wanted you and it wanted to contribute to your life. And these are all just ways that you can start to build your own personal wealth and start to create a different financial reality too. And Nate, you posted something in the chat that I really loved, is something when you're like freaking out about purchasing something that would contribute to your life. I wonder if you want to talk a bit more about that.
Yeah, well, I was kind of more talking about like what happened on my weekend trip. You know, I mean, I went to Vegas with a few of my friends, and I'd made a set budget for what I wanted to spend on this trip, right? And I stuck to my budget, and while I was there, I started to see what else I really wanted to do all on top of that, and I didn't have the money this weekend to do those things. So, like my first thought is, okay, so what can I do in the next year or until the next time I go back to Vegas? What can I be or do to create more money so that I can do that with ease? Just trying not to say, oh, I didn't have this budget there, this is this amount of price, I'll never be able to do that, it's too expensive. No, what can I do or be to create that with total ease? Like, that should be, why can't I do that?
Yeah, that actually reminds me of a story that my dad told me. So he's somebody he grew up in Iowa, and it was a farming community, and there wasn't, just his family, I think they were both in education. And he went into a dentist's office as a kid, and so the dentist is working on him. The kid of the dentist comes in and is like, Dad, I want a stereo. And the dentist's father was like, yeah, sure, we can get it. And that like blew my dad's mind so much, because in his family, if anybody wanted anything, there was this huge conversation and money was a big deal, and usually they ended up not getting it. And to be able to have that freedom to just choose, like, of course, yeah, you can have that. He actually chose to be a dentist at that moment. So he went to dental school and created a life where he had more choice and could actually make those choices to to buy things when how things were set up in his family before didn't really support that. He just saw something else. It was almost like shopping for reality. He saw something which was a freedom in somebody else's life that he didn't have, but he created it for himself. So anyway, I love that idea of when you see somebody who has something that you don't have or a possibility, instead of being like, oh, that sucks, I don't have that, or I'm grateful, like that's cool they have it, but I don't. Like, I love asking those questions of what would it take for me to have that, or what would I have to do or be in order for me to be able to have that in my life.
Right, and
great. We're so geeking out. We all want to talk at once. Oh my God, Nate, do you want to go next? And I'll wait. I think I could wait.
Okay. Well, I just want to say that one of my good friends, Steve Bowman, just gave me a couple of tips when I was visiting with him last month, and he just told me that there's so much money out there in the world that the only reason you don't have it is because you're working too hard to tell yourself you can't get it. You know, it's not the easiest thing to do, he told me to look and see what is really easy for me. And sometimes that's not the easiest thing to find, and like what's easy for yourself or what you think comes natural. But try and find those things that you do without even working hard, and find a way to use that talent, that ability in a way that you've never seen it before.
That really is like such a huge key for creating money and creating wealth, because those things that come really naturally, it makes life so easy when things are easy for you, but not necessarily easy for others. But then you have a whole lot of ease in that way, and then people want to pay you for the thing you're good at. And we've had like a little conversation about this before with me doing domination as a business. And I didn't think that there was any necessarily like value to me being controlling and wanting my way and wanting things as I wanted them right then. But that was kind of a crazy example of like, oh wow, that comes really naturally to me. I can actually monetize this, and that there are not even just a few people who want this, but even thousands of people out there. Oh, a break again. Woohoo.
Awesome. We will be back, I think, for our last segment on Geeking Out on Money. Stay tuned
Yay.
for more.
Your business can take you traveling, allow you to stay at home, have you working with people or by yourself, have you dressing up or staying in your PJs all day long. What are you choosing? Where do you do business that makes it easier, more fun, or more joyful for you? We'd love to see where you do business. Just connect with us on Instagram or Twitter and share your pictures with #BusinessDoneWhere and #JoyOfBusiness.
As difficult as it is to believe, there are places in Africa where human traffickers sell albino children and their body parts for use in magic rituals. Humanity Healing International is actively working in Uganda to change this paradigm. The Albino Rescue Project finds albino children who are at risk and places them in safe schools and environments where they can learn and grow free from fear. To learn more or to sponsor a child, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is. Are you trying to get from point A to point B and need a little advice? Connect with the counselors at OMTimes Advisors. Whether you're looking for a life coach or a spiritual intuitive, the advisors participating at advisors.omtimes.com were carefully chosen based on their gifts, skills, and professionalism. OMTimes Advisors, connecting you with the best advisors in the business. Join Elliot Jollish, the business therapist, each Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern for the Elliot Jollish Hour, as he interviews business experts on your behalf. And you're invited to email your business questions to questions@ecjgroup.com for answers, live, on air every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern on the Elliot Jollish Hour. Your conscious connection to a more mindful world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Hello, everyone. This is Rebecca Hulse, the creative producer of Joy of Business. not Simone Millicis today. We are hijacking this radio show, and my partners in crime are Georgia Watson and Nathan Glassell, and we are talking about money, coming from money, creating it, what does it take? And we have had more questions flood in during this pre-record, so I want to start with those, and then I'm going to put these two up for the challenge, and maybe myself too, just because we can, because why not? So the other question that we just got in was, does being able to receive create more money?
Yes. yes.
Just yes.
Like, yeah, I love playing with receiving. Like, there are so many interesting ways to even play with receiving, but I don't know if you guys have ever noticed, like, if you're just in, like, a really crummy mood and you feel kind of, like, shut down, like your barriers are up, it's not an invitation for people to contribute to you, not just money, but in a lot of different ways. But if you're, like, for me, if I have my barriers down and I'm just like, oh, what else can I receive? There's an energy that gets gifted to my life, and money is with that, too, of, wow, like, what else is possible? It's almost like more information can flood in, more ideas, more inspiration. Yeah, receiving to me is something that is just, like, so fun to play with.
Yeah, and on top of that,
you guys?
like, on top of that, it's like one thing you can kind of use as an example. If you're out at a meal and someone wants to pick up the check and you feel that you really can't handle it, a lot of stuff comes up for you, like no, let's split it, or something like that. Like, you have a tough time just letting someone pay for the bill. I kind of think, well, what else in your life are you not willing to receive that could be easy like that? So, like, anything that. But that's what I like to do. So if someone wants to pick up my bill, I'm like, okay, cool. I'm a lot easier receiving that now than I was a few years back. And now that I'm able to let someone pick my bill if they want to, I have a keener eye to see where I've been shutting myself down from receiving other possibilities, whether it's a business idea or getting in on a stock or something like that.
I love that. And you've actually done that for me a couple of times, Nate. I remember we were in Brisbane one day, and I was just talking to you about how excited I was to play with my own money and to like pay for things for people and pick up the check, and we were just having this conversation about independence with money, and then you just go and pay for the entire thing. And just like to push my buttons, like, did you really get it? Were you really okay with that? And it was very funny when I realized that, oh, no, I wanted to do that. Not other people could do that for me.
Right.
Yeah, and what a gift receiving is to other people, too, because I don't know if you guys have ever given a gift to somebody where they kind of don't really receive it. It is just so much less fun. But when you give a gift to someone and they really receive it and they're excited and there's that like twinkle in their eye, like that just contributes so much more than even like just the gift would. Like that amount of money, it doesn't like, there's no like linear computation of that at all. It's like, oh wow, that actual receiving and the gifting was the sweetness of those interactions for me at least.
Right. And like, and you can see that look in someone's eyes where like, when you give them a gift, and then on the opposite, instead of having that twinkle or really receiving it, they start going to, oh, now, okay, how much does this cost? Like, what's the value of this? What do I need to find? Now I need to gift them something of equal or greater value. And it's like, that totally takes the joy out of gifting for me. Like, when I see someone going to that, it's like, that's no fun at all.
And I think a lot of people worry, like, what am I supposed to do in exchange? That's like almost like an automatic response of, what do I have to do now that somebody gave me a gift? And part of my business with being a dominatrix is I've had to look and really see that things aren't, and they don't have to be about an exchange rate. And that if somebody wants to give me a gift, it is 100% my choice as to if I give something in return, if I don't give something in return, if me even receiving might just be the gift that I'm giving. So part of what I've been doing with this a new business that I have, the Are You Being Dominated and How Not to Be, is talking about those tools that help people feel like they have more choice Because with a lot of people, when you're given a gift, you don't necessarily feel like there is total choice there to either say yes or no, or what do I have to do in return. So there are all these things to play with having more of a sense of confidence in, wow, I can receive this and I can choose in any 10 seconds what I'd like to do later, but it doesn't have to be dependent on what someone else has given me. A gift doesn't equal control.
I love that. And like a conversation that Gary had that actually really cleared up this whole thing of receiving was talking about, like, if someone gave you a box of dog shit, would receiving it be rubbing it all over yourself and pretending that you enjoy it, throwing it away and going, oh my God, you yuck, why did you do that? Or going, oh, awesome, you gave me dog shit, putting that away now. And I realized that it wasn't about having to, like, throw myself into whatever someone had thrown at me, but more just acknowledging it and going, oh, cool, okay, dog shit, do I want to keep that? Nope. Oh, cool, wonderful jewelry, gold, gift. Oh, I would like to keep that. And that choice thing with the receiving, too, is that it's not that you have to resist and react or align and agree to anything that comes your way, but that you do have a choice with it and what you would like to do with it.
Yeah, that is so brilliant, Rebecca. Like that inspires me so much. And I'm seeing too that I can apply that with actually receiving judgment, because I will admit I'm not super good at that yet. Like there was something today that came up where I was like, holy moly, I am being judged like a lot right now. And I love what you're saying about just like, okay, so like my barriers are down. Like here's this gift of somebody's judgment, and I actually get to choose what I'm going to do with it from there. It's not that I have to rub it all over and like see where they're right about it or where I'm, wrong or where I'm right about it and they're wrong. So I love that. It's just like kind of receive it and like put it off to the side. It is. It really is. Kind of gross, but totally helpful.
Yeah, exactly. But that's effectively what judgment really is. Like, it's one of the cancers of this world, Dane here says. And yet we'd rather rub that all over ourselves than just go, okay, great, not for me.
Yeah.
Now, I think it is actually the last segment. I've just realized it of this show. This has gone really quickly. I pretty much can't believe that. I've had way too much fun. And if you have had fun listening to us and you want to know more, please email OMTimes@accessjoyofbusiness.com, because we do want to know your feedback and we want to hear what's going on with you. If you wanted to say, hey, I love this, I would like more, or hey, can we do something else? We'd want to know about that too. So do give us an email or go to the Joy of Business website, because these tools are inspired by the Joy of Business and the Access Consciousness creations that we've all had the pleasure to be a part of. So that website is accessjoyofbusiness.com. And now for the end, because I love this and it's kind of turned into a little hijack cooker challenge or pressure challenge, I would love to know, like, if we all had, and maybe we won't get to 5 because I can see that there's maybe about 7 minutes left, so we could do top 3 money tools, like your go-to ones. They can be ones from the show that we've already mentioned, but I'd like to see if we can come up with 9 different tools for these guys.
All right. I'll start off with one that I think for me is what I try and do every day. And that's just find the joy in just being happy with it. I mean, if you look at, let's say you like to go surfing, how much joy do you like having surfing? You want to do that every day. You want to get out there. You want to ride the wave. If you can take that same kind of excitement and thrills you get from surfing and apply that to money and having fun with it, that can totally change your entire perspective of what it means to go to work or to have a job or like have that paper material that people love so much. And just like have more fun with it, be happy with it, and play and enjoy yourself.
Awesome. And we're going to have to speed this up a little bit more. So if we can just list the tools out really simply, what's number 2 and number 3?
I can go.
Go for it.
Okay, cool. So mine would be to ask, what can I work on today, or what can I contribute today in my businesses or in my life that would be fun? Because money follows joy. So actually, like, choosing from joy and choosing from lightness, it just allows more to receive and all that kind of stuff. So the next one is to be turned on by money. Like, find either some gold or silver or cash and find actually the yummy pleasure and even the sexualness of it, and just see. I mean, we could talk about that a lot. I could talk about that a long, long time, but we'll just leave it at that. And then the third one would be the tool of just saying, money come, money come, money come. And I have like a little song. I go like, money come, money come, money come, 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 money come, money come, money come, come, come. And that just invites the energy of receiving and just asking it to come more. So, okay, cool. Rebecca, go.
I love that. Okay, so another one that I love that Simone does is so corny, but just being able to go, show me the money, and like say it in the shower when you wake up in the morning. Like, it's just one of those things that is really fun. And if you can get over how corny that is, then you might be willing to do anything for money, even the fun stuff. And another one that I really like to do is to destroy and uncreate everywhere I've refused to receive and refused to receive money. That one's another one of my favorites. So everything that is, right, wrong, good, bad, pop, name, shorts, boys, and beyond. And another one is to carry the amount of cash a rich person would carry. So what that does is it really creates this energy of that you do have money all the time and that you do have choice, and you could just take out that $1,000 in your wallet and spend it on anything. Nate, do you have another couple?
Yeah, I got one more for you.
We're doing so good.
What can I be or do to create more money right away?
That is awesome. So I'm going to actually put this entire list up on the Joy of Business Facebook page and up on the OMTimes section of the Joy of Business website, so you can find this list of amazing questions. And we got them all in, I think we talked about more than what I wrote down.
Cool.
Does anyone have any bonus tools that they want to put in just because we can? Because why not? I guess you're going to have to find those on the Facebook page. Thanks, everyone, for joining us.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.